So we made it. We're here. We're in Toledo, the Reverend Factory. Big tour coming up. We're getting ready to go in. Can't wait to see it. Cool guitars, cool dudes. This is going to be great. So you guys stick around. Let's rip.
Hi, CEO Haas. I'm Ken from Reverend Guitars. Thanks for joining me here in sunny, beautiful Toledo, Ohio, where we're going to show you around our place. What you're looking at right now is my desk. Isn't it exciting? Can you see the curved monitors from there? I don't know when that started. What have we got in here? We got Eric sitting on the floor. Can you see Eric sitting on the floor?
I'm just hanging out.
He's just hanging out. He's going to make sure I don't say anything stupid.
And everything I say is going to be stupid, so this ought to be a good day.
It ought to be a great day. Here in my office, I pay bills. It's very, very exciting. And we also have we have a little collection here of my personal instruments, the guitars that I gig with. I play in bands and travel around the country and the world, rocking the nation with my East Sider models over there on the left, and then my custom Matt West models with Railhammer Huevos 90s pickups loaded in them. And the rest of these things are some one-off stuff. This is a 10th anniversary Jetstream with a reverse headstock. We made those models in 2007, and that was my main guitar for a long time. We made 5 custom pink sparkle guitars for reasons that I don't exactly have a handle on at the moment. A few years ago, that's my King Bolt. Those are Reverend zebra humbuckers, which we did for a couple of years. Kind of cool. Next to that are 2 original bolt-on Warhawk models, and those are 2 of the original Reverend guitars that were made at Mirr Music in South Korea. The red one with the Floyd Rose being one of the 2 prototypes of the guitars from Mirr Music, as we will get into a little bit more on the tour. I'll explain to you guys how we do business and how that works and what the relationship is between us and Joe Naylor and Mirr Music. And then, of course, I do one of my bands is this Pink Floyd thing, and so there's Pink Floyd paraphernalia everywhere in my office. And these are just some of my favorite records of all time. That's my favorite signed Tin Machine vinyl up there, featuring Reeves Cabril's, where the world was introduced to Reeves, and we'll show you some more stuff that has to do with Reeves. And yeah, Eric, what do you say?
I love the pink sparkle. Many of my guitars are hot pink.
Yeah, pink's cool. I like it too. We do like a shell pink that we've done on some custom runs, but other than that, we've never really gotten into it in a big way. But I've learned never to say never. And yeah,
I love that's the only Reverend I've ever seen with Floyd.
That is one of 3 Reverends that have Floyds. 2 of them I can account for. There's a third somewhere that I don't know anything about, but there's an old phenolic U.S. Reverend from the early 2000s that has an engine-turned aluminum top and a Floyd Rose with a fully scalloped neck. Oh. That was an employee guitar, and we had an employee, Jesse Hopkins, who makes his own guitars now, the Clay Avenue Guitar Shop. Very nice stuff. And Jesse is an Yngwie fan and can play like that.
Oh my!
And so he has that scalped, and I don't think he still has that guitar anymore, but it is out there in the world. Yeah, the Floyd thing is not really our market particularly, but I like them. I'm not afraid of any of that stuff. It's really not something that we do, and even then, and I can show you guys like this sort of thing on these Matt Wests and on these East Siders with these Wilkinson trems. We can route the body like we do on the Reeves Cabril's models, so that you have full free play in the arm, and with locking tuners and the bonite nut, it really, I mean, we can be really aggressive with these guitars now. They stay in tune just fine. So I haven't missed
Right.
the Floyd thing.
Sure.
You know, it's a pain in the butt to set up.
Yeah.
And we're getting the job done without it, so there's really no reason to go through all that.
I'm for it.
You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, we're getting out of my dimly lit office and into more shiny, new. Here he comes. Look out.
You're rolling.
This is Andrew Clark.
How you doing?
Andrew Clark is our in-house photographer and IT man extraordinaire. He keeps that website, ReverendGuitars.com, by the way, and RailhammerPickups.com. He keeps them. Is it just Railhammer.com? I wish I knew what I was talking about.
It's Railhammer.com. Yeah.
It'd be nice if I knew what I was talking about. He keeps those sites maintained, running, and up to date. And then he also takes all the photography that you see on the website. We have some brand new colors for the Air Sonic model. Right now you see the black one is in the box, and the deep sea blue one is in the big box over there. And so we do all the photography in this room, and then Andy edits it, and from there, away we go. Say goodbye, Andrew.
Bye, Andrew.
These are the patent drawings for the original Reverend Guitar from 1996. And the gentleman that was with us before Andrew, Steve Yankee, was with the company for many years, went to work at a print shop, and he found these original drawings and blew them up and sent them to us as a gift, and I think they're super cool. Right this way, this is our demo room. And if you watch any of the Reverend videos, you'll recognize this. Greg Clark and I shoot the Ken and Greg show from this facility, and I shoot Facebook Live here every Friday morning at 11 a.m. And it's always a collection of oddballs and oddities, guitars that have been with us at guitar shows, and demos, stuff that's come out for review, or minor cosmetic seconds or whatever. The gray Soul Shaker over there was the guitar that Rick Vito played at our NAMM party this year. And the black Sensei is going to Justin Malik from the Suicide Machines to go out to festivals this year. That blue Manta Ray belonged to Rick Marcel from Cool and the Gang, who traded it to me for a 6-gun model. And he took really, really good care of it. But of course, I can't really sell it as new. So I hang them out in here, and then every once in a while I'll have dealers, such as the CA House, will say, hey, do you have any demos? And I'll be like, yeah. And then they can offer you guys deals on this stuff. Funny how that works. Nice for me, I got something behind me that I can grab when I'm shooting videos. Those are prototypes of 2 of the new basses for this year. I'm hanging out in the back corner there, the prototype for the Raymond in Venetian Gold, and the prototype for the Triad in Metallic Alpine. And then this black guitar here is the prototype for the Reeves Gabrel's Sustainer guitar. We had to install that Sustainer in something so that we could figure out the routing and all the tricks to installing Sustainers full-time. That's the Alan Hoover version of the Sustainer called the Sustainiac.
There's a lot of electronics involved in the Sustainiac.
There's a lot. And he's putting most of the stuff on a circuit board right now, but the body still requires quite a bit of routing. And so that guitar was sort of our template for going into production with Reeves' Sustainer model. Over here, too, we have one of the early Greg Koch models, which is the same type deal. We install all of the Fishman stuff, Greg's Gristle-tone pickups, into his guitar here at the shop, into the back, which we're going to get to, which we'll show you in just a few minutes. And then we're surrounded, of course, I also shoot Railhammer pickup demo videos here. All of those go through that orange amp over there, and this is our rotating stock of Railhammer demo guitars. Some of them are fun. I was telling you about Jesse Hopkins and the Clay Avenue guitars. This is one of his models here. And I'm building up a library. If you check out the Railhammer's YouTube page, what I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to do, I'm actually doing it, is I'm building up a library of pickup demos where, if you look up, I don't know what model Charvel this is, but if you look up this guitar, Railhammer Charvel on YouTube, you will find 6 or 7 videos of this same guitar with different Railhammer pickup configurations in it. And so you can hear what this guitar sounds like through that amp, just with different pickups. And the idea being that when we're done, we'll have a library of, a dozen different pickup combinations on all of these guitars through the same amp. Kind of a neat little project we're in the middle of.
I can't help but notice, is that an original root beer Ibanez gem?
This is a Gem 7RB from 1988.
Yes, it is.
And I have the original pickup assembly is in the case, of course. But one of the easier ones with the pickguard to swap things in and out of. But
I noticed it right away because it doesn't have the finger grip on it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Freaky guitar.
Yeah.
Looks super cool with the Railhammers in it, doesn't it?
It does, it really does.
It sounds great too. These are really, really fun. I have a collection of Gem stuff. Don't tell anybody. Oh, I just told the world.
Nobody watches our channel. So.
Yeah. Yes, and I have a handful of J Customs too. This is
that's
Profound Forest Green.
Yeah.
And really, modern. I really like the Railhammer stuff because modern instruments look more modern with the Railhammers in them.
They do. That's true.
I think that like something like this is like, this is a great look. This is the Sensei RA in Midnight Black with the Railhammers. And you look at a guitar like this and you know what it does.
Sure.
I mean, we're trying to come up with something that's a little bit stockier and a little bit beefier sounding than, say, an SG. Right? But not quite into LP territory.
Yeah.
But it's an original design, but it's a modern design, and the pickups just look great in this body style.
They absolutely do.
That's our shtick. And then, of course, along the floor is just all these crazy. This is the company amplifier collection. And this Naylor over here. This is a Naylor Superdrive 60 from 94, 95. And this is one of the original amps that toured with the band Sponge. Joe Naylor founded Naylor Amplifiers in the early 90s up in the Detroit area. And he and his partner hand-built these tube amps. And the Superdrive 60 has become sort of one of these like studio legend hand wire things that are highly sought after at this point. Joe and his partner made those amps for a couple of years, and then Joe sold the business to his partner and went on to found Reverend in 97. So the original amps that Joe worked on have held their value very, very well. This amp was built for Mike from the Detroit band Sponge, and so this amp has toured the world twice, has been on David Letterman and Jay Leno, and kind of a neat little piece of Joe Naylor's history, right? It's a great sounding rig. And then that's a 79 high watt, and we've got our Aguilar bass rig, and the Friedman. This stuff is really cool. This was my first amp. This is an original 1965 Fender Twin with EV speakers in the back of it. It belonged to my uncle Mike, and that, and along with the 68 Telly, are what I learned to play guitar on. I recently had it redone, and we shoot a lot of the videos and stuff in here. It needed caps, and it needed the whole shot. It was a 55-year-old amp that I used to use for a PA in my punk band in the 80s. So
that sounded great with a microphone in it.
It is really nice sounding. We'll plug that in later too. And then Zurcher amps are from here in Toledo, and I have a lot of car amp products. I think Steve Carr makes one of the best amps available today. John Cusack bought the Reverend amp designs. We can talk about the Reverend amps when we get more into things too, but Reverend offered amplifiers, the Hellhound, the King Snake, and the Goblin between 99 and 2003 or 4. And then we got out of the amp business to just concentrate on guitar stuff. Continuing onward, stuff. These are cool. This is the first guitar that we gave to Reeves Gubrels from The Cure, formerly David Bowie's musical director. Was in Tin Machine. Has performed with acts as varied as Bad Company to Nine Inch Nails. Reeves is just an absolutely amazing player. This is an original double agent model, which was a hardtail that he put this Stutz bar thingy on. and played around with it for a couple years, and this developed into his signature model now with the Wilkinson with the routed body, and of course now we do custom Railhammer pickups with Reeves and the whole 9 yards. But all of that started with this guitar back in 2008. And so at one point when he didn't have any use for it anymore, he asked me if I wanted it back, and yeah, of course. So it's kind of neat to have these weird little pieces of our company history lying around, right? And that goes the same for this. This is probably a good opportunity for me to tell you about the original Reverend Guitars. So when the company started, Joe, that patent that we showed you the patent drawing of, was for an original body design. And the way this works is this outside is a one-piece mold-injected plastic ring, and then there's a 6-inch wide block of carina that runs through the middle of the body, and the tops and the backs are like a phenolic, like a countertop that's glued on. So they're all semi-hollows. What differed, this is what Reverend started with in 1997. The differing feature, the different models were just basically different pickup configurations. This is an Avenger with 3 single coils. Rocco had 2 humbuckers. Slingshot had 2 P90s, that sort of thing. But they were all based on this platform because there was a mold that we had in order to make these body rings. And then eventually, we had a couple of different neck suppliers, but eventually we settled on a company in South Korea called Mirr Music to make the necks to Joe's specifications, and they made the pickups to Joe's specifications. And so what we built at our original shop in East Point, Michigan, and then moving over to Warren to a bigger facility by 99, 2000 was these bodies. And then, of course, everything was assembled there, and those were the original Reverend Guitars. We marketed these guitars up until about 2005. This particular model is Ron Ashton's Avenger. Here's a picture of Ron playing it at the DTE Music Theater. That's probably in 2004, 2005, in the original Stooges reunion tour. So interestingly, Ron, of course, is known for that really, really bright Strat through Marshall buzzsaw distorted guitar tone. And even with 3 single coils, these bodies, they're interesting. All of these guitars sounded like you cross whatever pickup combination. Eric's looking at me like, what are you talking about? No, it's true though. It looks like you tell me, Ken. It looks like you cross whatever pickup combination is in the guitar with like a 335, with like a semi-hollow. So even with the single coils in the Avenger model, it still really wasn't bright enough to get that attack that Ron liked. And so Joe developed this circuit that actually rolls out low frequencies in the same way that a tone control rolls out high frequencies as you turn the knob, and this is what we call our bass contour control, and it's featured on almost all of the Reverend models. Now there's a couple of artists that never use it, so we didn't really feature it on the artist models, and a couple of them like the East Sider or the Rick Vito Soul Shaker, but other than that it is on all Reverend stock guitars, the bass contour control. It worked so well on this Avenger that Joe carried it over and started using it in the whole line. The funny thing I like about this is the Radio Shack.
Oh, is it it looks like a crate?
Yeah, like whatever
crate
Joe
amp.
could get his hands on, to do this back in the day. When Ron passed away a few years ago, his sister gave this back to us, and so it occupies this place of honor here in our demo room.
Perfect.
Yeah. Ready?
Let's roll.
Let's go. Let's go. Here we go. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
Rolling. There's Zach. Say hi, Zach.
Hello.
Zach is our sales manager extraordinaire. Look at him working hard. This is the cleanest I've ever seen his desk. Over here is Tim. He's just going to be, you're going to see Tim in and out of all the shots because Tim is the guy here who actually does stuff. And right now we just got in a shipment of guitars, and he's coordinating all of those efforts and getting everything streamlined. See guitars through here and to you guys at the CA House. So let me show you how that happens. Right? That's sort of the thing that we're working on here. This is the rock. I don't even. What do we call this thing, Penny? The autograph guitar.
Autograph guitar.
When we have visiting dignitaries, we have them sign, and it's pretty funny. It started with Mr. Corgan. Billy was here a few years ago, and Billy and Jeff from the Pumpkins signed it. Of course, Gabrels had to be different and sign it with the yellow paint pen on the pickguard because, Reeves. But, of course, Watt and Pete Anderson and all kinds of different bands. Coffin Cats back here, Code Orange, The World is a Beautiful Place, Jack and the Bear. There's all kinds of fun things. Defeater signed it on the neck, which I thought was pretty sweet. Kyle Shutt and the Sword also signed him on the neck. Mike Watt signed the headstock. It's cool little piece. I don't know what we're going to do with it. We had this idea that once it was completely covered, maybe we'd do some sort of charity thing with it or something. I'm not really sure, but it's kind of a fun thing to be hanging around. Penny's going to look over her shoulder and say hi to you, and then she's going to be like, leave me alone because I have work to do.
Hi.
But this is the lovely Miss Penny, and she is, look, she's got facts and figures up on the screens right now. We are working on our colors for the model year 2020 already. And that's what Miss Penny is engrossed in. She also handles all of our social media, so when you see things on Facebook and Instagram, it is that lady right there. And right this way, grab a bottle of water. You guys are welcome to do the same thing. Warehouse 1. And the only one. So here's the Reverend trailer. And of course the band trailer. What do? You got to combine these things, right? So here's how this works. I showed you guys a couple of the original guitars from Mirr Music. And then I showed you some of the US guitars. These are great storytellers. This is really fun. I like the way this is working out.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So starting in around 2004, the sales of those original models, the phenolic bodied guitars, started to slip a little bit. And they were great guitars. I have a bunch. As a matter of fact, if you want to come over here, here's mine. When I started working for Joe, I did a lot of guitar shows and stuff for Joe, and I would work for him for 4 or 5 days, and he'd give me guitar. And of course, so I never sold any of them. I played the crap out of most of them. So I keep them. When the sales of them started to go, it was like it's a niche product. It had a little bit of that sort of Dan Electro vibe, which guitar purist guys, I would take them to show them to artists. One of my, I've told this story before, but one of my favorite artists in the whole world that we've ever gotten to work with was a Canadian band called the Tragically Hip. We worked with both of their guitar players. And the first time I showed them guitars, I showed them these guitars, and their lead guitar player, Rob Baker, came out, saw the plastic sides and went, I'm not into the Dano thing, and didn't even pick it up. And that was sort of our thing. It was our cross to bear. I would go to trade shows and I'd be like, you guys, you got to play this. And people would play them and they'd be like, whoa, this is great. But if I didn't get them right into people's hands, if dealers didn't get them right into people's hands, it was different enough looking that the guitar industry, which is so liberal and open to everything, was like, oh my God, that doesn't look familiar. You don't even have to edit that out. I own that statement. And so people, it sounds goofy to say people were afraid of it, but people were afraid of it. But the people that liked it loved it, but it wasn't enough to sustain it. And because of the construction, because they all had that sort of that semi-hollow vibe to it, they were just killer blues guitars. But they weren't aggressive enough for hard rock or metal. They weren't bright enough for country. So they had like sort of a niche thing too. And the niche that they had was being filled by, the custom shops from the major manufacturers and other, American brands that were just coming on huge at the same time. The popularity of the main brands really peaked in the late 90s and early 2000s. So Joe needed to try something a little bit different. And he had some designs for solid body instruments that he wanted to do, And so he went to Mirr Music, the company that was making the necks and the pickups, and had some prototypes of the guitars made. And I'll be honest with you, I'm, red-blooded Detroit Mustang driving guy, right? And I was like, I can't believe you're going to go to Korea to have a guitar made, man. And he's like, well, we got to check it out. Have an open mind. Fine. We got in those prototype Warhawks that I showed you, and Joe sent me the green one. And I took it out and played it on a gig, and 3 songs into the gig, I was like, this guitar smokes the other guitars. It was just obvious, and what we've done there is sorry, there was somebody behind me that was freaking me out. What we've done with Mirr is we've tapped into 3 generations of guitar building. So Naylor is a engineer, went to engineering school at Western Michigan University, design school, and then he went to Roberto Vence School at Lutherie, and then Joe owned a little music store that he bought and sold vintage guitars and repaired guitars for years after graduating from Roberto Vence. And so Joe kind of took his knowledge of working on all the vintage instruments and threw all the features of all the stuff that he liked and started making the Reverend models. So that's Joe's background. Mirr is owned by a guy, the factory that we use. It's not our factory. We don't own a factory in Korea. We utilize this factory that was started 2 generations ago, the owner's grandfather, and they made stringed instruments and things, and they started getting into electric guitars in the late 60s, and it's what they do. They built for us and Italia and a couple other brands, including major brands that lie about where they come from, which is insane to me in this day and age. And we've sort of tapped into their experience. And then we take the guitars that Joe designs and that they make, and we bring them here. And here they are. And again, we can get into more detail about that. If you have questions about that, we'll get into more those details in another video. But that's not what we're talking about right now. I just gave you the overview. So here they are. This is what they come. This is how they come to us. They come to us in boxes. Yeah. And they're done. I'm going to open one up so you can see what I'm talking about. This is a Sensei RA in wine red flame maple. So there is a guitar hiding in every one of these boxes behind me. And we have, as you can see, we have a pretty decent sized warehouse. Here in these rows are most of our signature models, some of our set neck models, and moving down the line, you can see at the end of this thing is a bunch of our NAMM display stuff. Over here we have a lot of the signature models. Over here we have the big model. And then the set neck stuff and boxes and shipping things. It's a warehouse. It's very exciting, I know. These are the actual shipping crates, hard shipping crates.
How many can you get in there?
I can fit 4 bodies in each of those.
That's awesome.
They hold.
In there?
Yeah, he might be. Those hold 14 guitars and all the display materials a piece.
That's awesome.
And so, the guitars then come from the shop, and they come from the warehouse, and then they go into the shop when guys like the CA House buy them up. Check it out. So, I don't know that you've met everybody yet, but this is Doug, and that's Seth, this is Mr. Chris, and this guy running around back here, that's Zach Green. These guys do complete setups on the guitars. It's quite a bit more detailed than just popping open the box and making sure everything looks good. As you can see, Doug is getting into working on a Wilkinson trem at the moment, and he's going to. Hey, let's show him a Vericlaw while you've got that back off, Doug. What do you think? We're going to take advantage of Doug having this guitar taken apart. We were talking about the Wilkinson trem, which is a fine unit. Again, setup-wise, yes, you have to use some Allen screws to loosen all this stuff up. But once you set up and intonate this bridge, you lock everything down, and it becomes one mass with great punch and sustain, and then it doesn't move. You know, there's no need. As long as you're using the same strings, you don't need to readjust this thing over and over again. It stays in tune great. The knife edge points are really, really high quality. And then one of the cool little features that's on all the Reverend Guitars that you don't see is what we call the Vericlaw. And you can read about it on the website, of course. But what this does is this lets you, if you set up the guitar with 10s, as he is about to do, he will put all 3 springs on the 3 middle claws. And then you can go back and forth between having 3 springs or 2 springs in the trem cavity without really having to adjust the claw. So if you like a really loose, flappy feel on your trem, you just run the 2 springs on the outside.
Genius.
Kind of weird, isn't it? It's beautiful. Works perfectly. Yeah, that's just... Joe has a tendency to think about things like that. This triple tree, too, was just a cool little innovation of Mr. Naylor's. We don't like the look of 2 string trees on a guitar. And these are staggered tuners, right? And we never had a problem with the regular Doug's like, give me that guitar back, I want to do. We never had a problem with standard tuning, standard 6-string guitars. And having that G string flapping around in the saddle. Everything was totally fine. And we used a little roller tree for a long time. When we started to get into some of the baritone stuff, we were kind of, Joe himself plays in a 2-man band with a detuned guitar. And he was playing with the wound third for a while. And he wanted to brace that in the nut a little bit better. I keep talking to him. And so he just took our roller string tree and popped the rollers off of it and put a nail in there and was like, this thing works awesome. And one thing led to another, and patent pending, and you have triple trees on all the websites. So you will notice Doug's initials on the back of the headstock of the guitar when Doug is done setting up the guitar and inspecting it. He will assign a serial number to it and sign his name on the back. Seth down here does pre-setup work on the guitars, some more than others. As you can see, he's into a 12-string right now, which these guys love 12 strings, don't you fellas? Nobody's talking. Nobody's talking because you guys are here.
We love 12 strings very much.
Yeah. See, if you guys weren't here with the cameras, they'd be swearing and all. Chris is our warehouse manager. He tries to make sure that we have all of the inventory that we need as far as strings from. We use strings here from D'Addario, and also we use SIT, another Akron, Ohio company. We use SIT for the baritone strings and the bass strings. We do a custom set, 2 custom baritone sets. For the Pete Anderson baritone East Sider guitar, and for our regular descent baritone. We sell a lot of baritones. And so we have custom string sets for those for setup, and then also available in our store for maintaining. If you buy the guitars and you want to get the strings that were on them, SIT packages those for us that we can sell to our friends at the CEO House. When Seth and Chris are done doing the pre-setup work on the instruments, they put them on the rack, and then Doug and Zach Green, turn around and wave. There he is. That is Zach Green, CSG. His initials are also on the back of most of the, let's see, somebody give me a serial number. The serial number is something somebody's working on.
35,000.
35,000? That 12 string. The 12 string on Seth's bench is Reverend Guitar number 35,000, which that makes it the 35,000th Reverend Guitar since 1997. We started with 0001. and they have been numerical. It's kind of fun that you guys are here, and a milestone number is ticking by.
Occasion.
Yeah, that's fun. And Zach has probably signed 33 of the 35,000, if not more. Naylor was signing him for the first year. Zach started with us in '98. Zach, right?
End of 98, 99.
End of '98, early '99. And he signed everything for 20 years. And then when we started getting busy, when somebody was on vacation, you might see one signed by Joe, or there's even a couple out there signed by me. If you have one that's signed by me, send it back and we'll have these guys set it up again for you, all right? Not my forte. I can do it, but I'll be honest with you, not like these guys can. The important thing here is that we want, when somebody walks into the store, when somebody walks into the CA house and picks up this guitar, we want this guitar to be the best playing guitar in the store. Bottom line. And the only way that we can guarantee that, of course, is if we do it ourselves. All the music stores that we deal with have their own guitar techs and in-house repair. I'm sure you guys are no different. But there's a thing that we want to present to people, and these guys are doing that for us. So you know when you go in and pick it up that we're into it, and it's done right. Look at it. Look at it. It's not working the whole time. It's amazing, isn't it? This is Kevin over here in the handsome Reverend work shirt, and he is currently polishing up a guitar to go to some place called the CA House, somewhere in Ohio, and he is the guy that gets out the buffing wheel and does the heavy polishing, and then he boxes them up, whether they're going to you in boxes or cases or whatever the case may be. He handles all of that, and then he gets it packed up and shipped out of here. In your guys' case, you're just going to put them in that fancy van that's sitting in our parking lot and drive them back home. Right? Right.
Exactly. No, there was a guy that was supposed to wash it while it was out here. Are they washing it?
That's next door.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And here we go into the shipping office. This is the real exciting place where when Kevin has the guitars finished, he prints out labels to hand them off to the UPS man. But there is the hidden room. We're going to talk about Railhammer pickups for a second. So, after Mr. Naylor we're going to get into the story of how I ended up being the CEO of this company. But Mr. Joe, when he was no longer the CEO of Reverend, Joe, like that Veraclaw thing that I showed you, and the Triple Tree thing, Joe is always working. Joe plays, and he plays a lot, and he's just got this engineer brain where he's constantly trying to think of things to improve the tone of the guitars. And one of the things that he came up with in 2012 is the Railhammer humbucker. And so, not pulling any punches, the idea behind this is blade-style humbuckers. If you think of Dimebag Darrell and what a killer rhythm sound the man had, blades under the strings take a very small slice of the magnetic field that's being created by the strings. I've said that before. And so you get this naturally compressed sound for high gain. And so when you're palm muting rhythms, and again, remember I was telling you, Joe Naylor plays detuned a lot. He plays baritone style guitars tuned to drop B or drop A with gain. And those blades keep that sound really, really compressed. And when you're riffing, and again, if you think of Dime's rhythm sound, it was crushing. I mean, you can feel that percussive attack. Part of the reason was, of course, the Armstrong pickups that he used with the blades on them, right? The flip side of that is, when you go to the lead strings, because of the same principle that makes it tight on the bottom end, it makes it shrill on the high end. And you get the real squeaky sort of bleedy treble. So what Joe designed in this one pickup, he balanced off the blades under the high strings with oversized slugs so that it balances. but you get a sweeter, more chimey, more musical top end out of a pickup that has the crushing lows. And when Joe originally designed this pickup, of course, he was thinking rock and roll. But then as we started experimenting with these pickups, we realized that they work great for everything. I said it here, this is the ultimate jazzer pickup. And jazz guys, again, kind of like the guitar thing that I was talking about earlier, they look at that and they go, oh, that doesn't look right. Once you get past that, because of what this thing does on the bottom end of the strings, on large hollow body jazz guitars, this thing sounds terrific for doing the octave stuff and whatever. And so, and complicated chords, because the string to string clarity is awesome, and especially between like what would be your D and your G string. The balance is superior, and you can really hear everything in very, very complicated chords. So it's really, really cool pickup, and there's different variations of it, and of course I'm sitting here without my glasses on, so I can't read the backs of any of these, but we're going to get into it anyway. So it started with the humbucker, where you can see the 2 blades and the 6 pole pieces, and then eventually it moved on to what we call the hum cutter, where we basically, there's still 2 full coils underneath of this cover. We've just removed 3 of the poles and 1 of the blades, so it takes an even smaller slice of that magnetic field, right? And we tune these to sound like P90s. And they sound incredible. Super mid-range punch. We do signature set of this pickup for Billy Corgan, who uses them in the Billy Corgan signature model, and it does that mid-range single coil thing completely noiseless. Yes, it's a humbucker, but it has that same sort of tonal properties that you get out of a P90. We do a high-powered bridge version of this called the Huevos 90, which is in a couple of my personal guitars, and I think the Huevos 90 pickup is the best sounding humbucker ever. Not that anybody cares what I think, and of course I'm going to say that because it's my company, but I'm serious. These things just destroy. So we sell those here too. And here's, the inventory of all of the pickups. And then there's a bunch of takeouts up here from all those demo guitars that I showed you up in front in our office. We just went through a thing where we switched all the pickups in 16 guitars. It's pretty exciting. Over here we have all these fancy Reverend t-shirts and some random pick guards and shipping stuff. And so as you can see when you come through here, I'm gonna get my water. All of the guitars come into the shop, and then they do this big circle that we just walked, where everything gets set up and then shipped right back out this door.